right, folks. Well, you know you're in for a treat when you hear that tune because it's time for another week of the Rec Poker Podcast. This is the Chats edition, episode 628. But we also have a forums episode every week, just talking strategy. I'm your host, Jim Reid, Bluffsterini in the home game and at Rec Poker Jim on Twitter. And I have the best freaking job in the world talking poker with my friends here on the podcast every Monday night at 7:30 Eastern, live on YouTube. Join us for free every week, and you can win a prize just for showing up. We're going to be talking to our fantastic guest this week, Craig Savage, in just a moment. First, I have to mention that we are brought to you by Running Aces, the official sponsor of the Rec Poker Podcast. Most of what we do here is free. We're a largely volunteer-based organization, so we depend on support from our sponsors and also from our premium members who take part in our training material and study opportunities for only $22 a month. So thank you to all of them for all their support. I want to let you know if you want to get more involved with Rec Poker, you can sign up for a free community account right now over at rec.poker. All it takes is an email address and a smile, although we do insist on both. And you can get your first month of premium membership for only $5 by using the code RecPoker at checkout. And if $5 is a lot of money, I get that. We also like to support local food banks. So if you want to make a donation to a food bank in your area for any amount, anytime, we'll also credit you a free month of premium membership at Rec Poker just for helping out some hungry souls who need a little help. So please do consider that. And now you get to hear my voice a lot because they let me host the show on Mondays, but I'm only one man. It takes a group, a gang, a village, a crew to make the magic happen around here. We call this group of wizards the RECing Crew. And if you want to find out more about me or the rest of the crew, you can go to rec.poker/crew, or you can just listen up. You're going to meet a few of them right here tonight on the show, starting with producing co-host Chris Jones.
I'm Chris Jones. You can find me 5B5 on Twitter or 5x5 in the PokerStars home game, and I help run our monthly strategy segment called The Deep Dive.
And my name is Joe Coolis. You can find me at Joe Cool PhD, cool with a K, or Elvita11 in the home game, Joe Cool PhD on Twitter. And I run the PsyOps workshop, which takes you behind the scenes in terms of how your brain processes information and how that affects your poker game.
And I am John Somsky, also known as Poker Geek MN, and I help coordinate our home games.
I'm Kim Kilroy. I'm PetVet33 on the social platforms, or Fergie56 in the home game. And I run a hand history review once a month.
And I'm Rob Washam. You can find me as Rabman50 just about everywhere. And on the first and third Wednesdays of each month, you can join me and a group of our premium members as we discuss the latest books about poker.
That's right. So as you can see, there's a lot going on here at Rec Poker. There's just a little taster's choice of the smorgasbord, the buffet of poker community and training that's awaiting for all our members that are waiting to check us out. Come on by and check us out. All right. Now, you're not here for that, though. You're here for Craig freaking Savage. So, Craig, let's just start it off. Thanks for coming on the Rec Poker Podcast, man.
Thanks for having me,
buddy. Now, we've known each other for a little while. I'll put some context out there. I'll put you in a box a little. You were involved in the 100K group with Rob Gardner. You're an accomplished player. You coach. You have a lot of roles in sort of the poker world. And but don't let me put you in a box. Like I like to start off these interviews. If our audience hasn't heard of you, how would you define your own place, your own role in the poker world today?
Well, I think you have to have somebody like me on because that whole Matt Affleck announcement just like tanked. And so, you had to bring in a big name. No, listen, here's the deal. I am nobody and I am everybody. I am an everybody. I'm just like most of the poker players out there. I started out as an enthusiast, a game player, a card player. Worked my way up, and now I would consider myself a part-time professional player, part-time poker coach. Although I think I specialize in that niche of taking some really people who are recreational type players who want to take their game seriously, shaving off the bottom of their game, getting them to a place of competency. And if they outgrow me and want to move on to like a higher level coach, if they really make a go with it, I have plenty of people I can pass them on to. But that's where I stand right now. I think a lot of my role in the poker community is to really kind of be a hand up to people. is something that comes to me kind of naturally, and to kind of really be an ambassador to the fact that this is an endeavor for anybody. Because I'm just like them. I'm an everybody. I'm a school teacher. I have a full-time job. I have a family, and I fit poker in when I can. And in certain times of the year, I have a lot more time for it, and I throw myself fully into it. And other times, I have to pull back and kind of do it as a part-time thing.
Well, we're all excited that you've joined the RECing Crew. You're one of the folks from 100K that were leading a lot of their study groups and coaching opportunities, and now you're doing the same here. And I'm really excited to be welcoming you aboard. I'll just mention to our YouTube chatters, if you have any questions for Craig, feel free to type them in. We're also going to be looking for some names to use for Stake Study Stack a little later in the show. And of course, if you'd also like to help support what we're doing here through YouTube, you can make a super chat donation, or a super sticky, or a super comment, and we share a portion of those donations with a local food bank as well. So get active in the YouTube chat, folks, and stick around till the end of the show. You'll get a chance to win a prize just for showing up. So, Craig, let's talk a little bit about sort of your journey into poker. Have you been a teacher your whole life? Has this been sort of a calling for you, or is this a pivot at some point in your experience?
Oh, it was a kind of a pivot, but it was a very early pivot. I wasn't sure graduating college what direction I wanted to go into, whether it was medical school or research, and I thought I needed a little bit of time. I have a background in neuroscience. That's my undergraduate degree, my focus. And I was just trying to like kill some time or buy some time. So I thought, what, I'll try to teach. And so I took a break. I'm in year 31 of that break. I found myself in a classroom in front of a bunch of students. I faked it, tried to make them believe that I knew what I was talking about, and no one ever told me to get out of the classroom. They didn't tell me to leave. They didn't call me a fraud. And I've been teaching and coaching for this is my 31st year. So at some point, it struck me that it wasn't something I chose to do. It was just embracing who I was as a person. I've always been a teacher, and I've always been a coach. I think I was that when I was a student. So I think I was very fortunate to kind of fall into that, or maybe something in me knew that was what it was. But I told myself I was just taking a break. So yes, I've been in the classroom for my entire adult life. I grew up in a classroom essentially. So, and then the poker thing was my family were card players. We just played cards, and I enjoyed games. But more, I was a fairly accomplished athlete. At the college level, I was fairly mediocre, but I competed at the college level. And once that ended, a part of my identity was missing. The part of my identity that was that knew myself as a competitor, as an athlete, and I was really looking for that outlet, some place where I could compete, and physically my body couldn't do the things I wanted to do as an athlete. And I stumbled into poker and found it a compelling challenge. And I really appreciated the fact that I think this was the biggest thing to me was the barrier to entry was fairly low. I didn't have to be exceptionally tall or fast or young. I just had to be able to think and strategize and study and improve, and then I could hold my own. I felt it was very equitable. You know, the opportunity was there, and I appreciate that. I think that for me, it was similar to when I found wrestling. I was a soccer player, fairly a competitive soccer player, and I got to the point where my physical genetic gifts were holding me back. I wasn't the fastest, the strongest, the biggest, but I was a fairly intelligent player, and I got invited out to try wrestling. I was in like sixth grade, fifth grade, and I didn't know anything about it. But you brought me into a room, and I remember they matched you up with someone your size. And I'd never competed with my size before. I was like, who's this little guy? I'll kill this little guy. And I could be looking in a mirror, you know, like, but it gave me a sport where they would even the playing field. And I thrived in that environment. And I feel like poker is similar. the playing field can be even. No one has an inherent advantage in this endeavor. It's just about the work you put in. And that really appealed to me as someone who felt the same way about wrestling and a wrestling career. If I put in more work, if I outwork someone, I could win. And I never, ever won a wrestling match because I was the stronger wrestler or the fastest, the quickest. I was going to outwork you, outthink you in that arena as well. So it was a really natural fit for me, and I thrived on it. It's also a solo sport. For a long, you're out there on the mat by yourself. You're at the poker table. It's one person per hand, and you have to do it yourself. And that was another place where I thrived. But I had a team. I had a wrestling team. I had teammates, I had coaches, and I was missing that in the poker world until I found Rob Gardner and the Team 100K group. Or Rob and I connected, and as that got built out, I was in there from day one, building it out. And this last summer was the first summer where I went into my mode of being full time and did it as a team with teammates, and it was way better. Like the experience was better. I didn't have a better summer. I lost money this summer, but the experience of going through it with teammates, people who you could talk to, who cared about it, who you could bounce things off of, who were supportive, who had watched you do all the work leading up to it and knew how hard you worked, made it more fulfilling. And I think that was missing that for a long time at poker. And that's what the, Team 100K gave us, was that feeling of we're in this together in an endeavor that can be very, very lonely sometimes, poker. And so now, we talk with you guys at RecPoker, and we're like, these guys are doing the same thing. It's about community. It's about together. We'll go out there and we'll compete against each other, and we're going to go as hard as we can. But when you win, if I see you win, I almost feel as good as when I win. Well, especially when I have a piece of you, by the way. So thank you for that. But like, I get a lot of satisfaction by seeing one of my teammates do well. And that's helpful, because you're not always going to be winning.
And I hear Joe Coolis, you raised your hand. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of follow up. It's something that we talked about on the last workshop. Craig was there for it, and I think we've talked on previous, is that social support is something we don't really recognize how much of it allows us to play better, allows us to feel better in terms of our play, even if somebody isn't around, right? Just knowing that somebody's kind of there and gives a damn about what it is that you're doing makes a big difference in terms of our ability to feel comfortable in terms of playing. And I'll just say that when I first started playing, it was COVID. It was pretty lonely, and I was, trying my best on a site, and it was, I'd win something and be like, well, who gives a damn except for me? And my wife was like, hey, good for you, and it's not really the same, as knowing that if I were to post something, even a small amount of recognition that I did something, it makes a big difference. So it's not what Craig is saying, it's not a small thing.
Yeah. It's really nice to see, people in our community who play various stakes from, $1 tournaments to the 200s. When somebody wins, or somebody has an accomplishment, or somebody's moved up, has a good day, the whole community is celebrating them. And that can make everyone have their own little poker career, whether they're, someone who generates an income from it, or someone who's, just playing, endeavoring a hobby. And if, breaking even is fine for them, but that sense of, we all recognize the work you put in, and we appreciate what you're doing. So it's really meaningful. I've gained a lot of satisfaction from the process of the 100K group, getting in there and working with people and watching their game improve, and thinking maybe you had to play a little bit of role in that improvement. And even if it's just to say great work and keep working hard.
Now, you've mentioned sort of some of the corollaries from your sports experience, helping you in poker, and sort of like this camaraderie and team building, and like being on the crew, and how important that is. We do have Mike says this, this is Chiva Chris. Welcome, Chris, to the YouTube chat. It says, all right, this is a softball question, but Craig, how do you think your teaching skills translate to poker coaching? And I'm also going to ask if it has if it translates to an advantage as a poker player and as someone who studies the game as well.
Well, that's going to lead us down a very long road, I think. By the way, that's Chris. That's
Ah,
LFC.
great. There we go. There's LFC. Love it. We're
Yes.
going to be talking to him again sometime soon, too.
That he is a master teacher. So my classroom teaching experience has taught me that the best way to answer a question often is to ask a question back. I want my students to learn to ask the right questions and then start to learn to ask the right questions to themselves. And I think that a lot of poker coaching can come down to someone who has the information. I'm the holder of the information, and you come to me and I give you the information, and I don't think that works very well, because then I don't know why it is I'm doing what I'm doing. And what I've learned is if my students don't understand the why, then the what doesn't matter very much. The other part of that I think is important. I want you to think about the best teacher you remember, like the teacher that had the biggest impact on you. They probably weren't always the easiest teacher, but I will promise you, or I suspect, that it was a teacher who took the time to know you, and push you and treat you as an individual. And I think that if you know your students, you can teach them. And if they know you, they're going to want to learn from you. And so I think there's teaching is a very social endeavor. I think it's very much about relationships. And so when I'm working with someone in the classroom, or I'm working with someone in poker, I want to know them as a person. I kind of want to know what makes them tick a little bit. I want to know what their motives are, what their goals are. I want them to know a little bit about me, and then I want to make sure that they know that I'm invested in their success. But when it comes down to the actual teaching part, a lot of times it's like framing it for them so that they can see the why and ask themselves the question. Because when they're in some novel situation, they need to have the framework of, these are the questions I need to ask myself in these situations to make the best decision, instead of just like, here's the chart, this is what we open, this is the type of board do we see bet, this is, when we bluff rivers. It's not that simple. So many times people will ask me about a hand, and I'm thinking there's so much context missing. Like, is there any context that would make you deviate from what your normal plan would be? And especially in live poker, I mean, there's so much we get information wise from how someone's physically holding their body to how they move their chips. When we're playing online, we have to be looking at, our HUD, if we have one, betting patterns, board textures, and sticking a little bit more to theory. But I do think that the other thing, that having been in the classroom for so long, you have to put yourself as the teacher in the seat of the student. I need to see it from my student's perspective. And I tend to try to remember when I was in that seat and I had that question, what was the misunderstanding? What did I have students ask me questions all the time. And a lot of times my answer to them is like, are you asking this? Or are you asking this? I'm trying to clarify the question. And they realize that the question they're asking isn't really the question they have. And for the courses I teach, I've been doing it so long that I know pretty much the question they have. And I also hear them ask it wrong. But meaning they don't have the language yet to ask it. And if I can help them frame the question, then sometimes the answer becomes obvious to them without me telling them. And I think that's the transfer.
Now, some of our audience might have heard of like the Socratic method of teaching. Is that essentially what you're describing, or is there sort of like Socratic plus or Socratic adjacent? There's more than just questions, I think. Probably,
but that's some of that teacher speak that I don't have it. I don't have any like formal teaching pedagogy training. I went back and got a master's in ed leadership. And they started throwing around those fancy words like that. And I'm like, oh, do you mean like answering a question by asking a question? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, I don't know that you call that thing. I don't really care. I say yes, but I don't know if that's a very formal process for me. It's, again, I'm going to tailor my teaching to you. I'm not going to make you fit my system. I'm going to adjust my system to you. I do the same thing when I coach. When I have a team, if I have a system of play that I really enjoy, then I have to go out and recruit players who fit my system. If I do that, if I'm a professional team, I just go get the players that fit my system. If I'm a college coach, I would go recruit the players that fit my system. But I'm a high school coach, so I have the players I have. So I have to look at them and say, okay, what's the best system for this group to give them the best chance of success with their qualities? Well, I can do that with an individual or a group. So I have to be the one that's flexible in the classroom, on the soccer field, and when I'm coaching poker.
I like that. That's a great answer. And especially for, less experienced players or players that are not used to being in an academic mindset or in a learning, frame of mind, you're going to need to sort of meet them halfway. I think you're going to have to give them a lot of advantages to get there.
Yeah, the best teachers meet their students where they are. They don't expect them to catch up. And I think that when I'm coaching poker, I think I'm still a student. I'm still learning. I am not close to being a good enough poker player to say I'm a good poker player. I've been making a fairly nice side income in this for since about for almost 15 years. I've been making a consistent income enough to supplement my take home pay for the year. But I'll tell people I'm not any good at poker. I'm still learning. I'm good enough. But I'm also close enough to most of my students in terms of it wasn't that long ago that I was asking the same questions that I can't put myself back in their space. I think at some point now, if you gave me someone who's never seen the game before, I might struggle to go that far back. And what I would do that person is go play a little bit. I need you to play until you have formulated some questions. I need you to get a little bit of a base. It doesn't have to be much. And then we can go from there. But I don't know if I'd have the patience to tell somebody what hand beats what. You can learn that on your own, and then get to me.
Yeah, I like that. One of the great perks of being on the RECing Crew is that we do work with beginner and intermediate players, really of all skill levels and experience levels, and we don't have to be Daniel Negreanu or one of the best players in the world in order to help some of these players find some leaks. There's a lot of, I don't want to say like cookie cutter or cliched mistakes or answers out there, but the fact is, like you say, a lot of less experienced players are making the same mistakes. There's not a lot of new mistakes out there for inexperienced players. And so if we can get a sense of, what are the areas where your game is dropping off the least. You mentioned just sort of trimming off that worst part of their game. That's something that I wish more beginner and intermediate players would take advantage of, because it's getting a leg up, getting a hand up, and sort of just moving more quickly through the arc of learning this poker stuff, because you've got some guidance is really, really important and really beneficial.
And once you shave that bottom part, like the worst of the game off, then all of a sudden they start to see all these other areas where, now I can attend to these things because I'm not doing this thing that's really holding me back. And that's when you see their game just take off. At first, when I'm working with someone, I'll take a player who's, a happy hobbyist who's willing to put money into the game. They go out and they play around a golf every week. They're going to pay the greens fees. It's the same with their poker. They're going to put their money down. They're going to slowly lose over time. They're going to, reload and go again. And they're enjoying it. They enjoy the endeavor. But if you can take the bottom off, it basically reduces your greens fees. All of a sudden you're paying a little bit less for a round or you're getting 2 rounds for the same price before you have to reload. And then if you could take a next part off, you get to where you can get to the part where you're basically playing for free. And then everything's set to then take off. And it's wait, I can do this thing I really enjoy doing. I can make money doing the thing I'm doing, or I can do the thing I'm doing for free. And then I believe that if you're willing to put the work in, I really do. I don't think you have to be exceptionally intelligent. I think you just have to be willing to work. I think you can find games you can play in where you can consistently be a winner. And I have friends that play golf every weekend, and they never bring money home from the golf course. Well, a couple of them do, but a couple of them are pretty good, and they're hustling on the golf course. But most of them are just happy to get a special rate when it comes out.
Yeah, and I've mentioned this before. Golf's a great corollary for this. I mean, if you're an amateur golfer, you'll drop $50 on getting a lesson at the range from the assistant pro, not because you're planning to make that $50 back that week on the greens, but just because now you're better at this hobby that you love so much and it's more satisfying for you and you can take more pride in it. Poker just happens to have, along with that, the ability to make some money doing it. And maybe you're not even a great player, but you get lucky and make some money. Like it's a different. Yeah, I would just encourage folks to don't think about it as like a ROI decision to go get an hour of coaching with someone like Craig or someone else on the RECing Crew. Like you're going to improve. You're going to improve a lot faster, and you'll enjoy the game more. Craig, sorry.
You know what I just considered? It's the better you get at golf, the less you get to play.
Because you're practicing more and you're
because like if you're terrible, you get to hit the ball like 100 times, but if you're good, you only get to hit it like 80 times. Like the better you get, the less you actually get to do the thing. Your round ends faster. That's counterintuitive.
There you go. Yeah, that's right. Joe, you know a little something about intuition. Why don't you jump in here next?
Well, I think that it was interesting what you said about meeting people where they are, because poker, I mean, where poker kind of divides from golf is that golf, you're just really looking to continue to become more consistent in a very basic set of skills, right? Over and over and over again. There's not a lot of theory that can, and what do I know about golf? But by comparison, some people, like you said, want to come in and they want to learn a strategy that's going to make money at their 1-3 table. And if you can execute that over and over again, you can have that. But for certain people, the theoretical aspects of the game in terms of what it allows you to do is fundamentally different. And there's going to be certain people where it's not just cutting off that bottom. But I think that why I kind of spoke up is that understand that you don't have to be the person that's going to have to go, 30 hours a week to the poker table in order to just win a little bit more money. It can be an intellectual exercise, and you find the right people that are involved. Sometimes some of the people that I have communicated with over the long term in the poker world don't play that much, but they're just fascinated to kind of dig around with a solver and see what theoretically things are happening, much more so than those aspects of the game. And I think that tends to be missed sometimes in terms of how people view what the game can bring you.
Right. And the other side of that is, the solver outputs, and then you think about the variables of human beings. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I'm fascinated with. Like, I want to solve you, and I want to solve you, and I want to solve you, and I want to solve you. I'm very tuned into like what makes this player do what they're doing versus this player. And so I thrive in the live setting in that respect. Like I get a lot of intellectual satisfaction from that process. It often results in me having a good session, but I'm just inherently fascinated by humans and human behavior. I want to know why people do anything that they do. And if I can try to understand that, and poker is just such a good laboratory for kind of that type of experimentation, essentially.
So we're getting some great comments in the YouTube chat. I love it when our chatters get active. Just a reminder to stick around. We're going to give away a prize at the end of the show to help support a local food bank. Chris Jones, you unmuted. Was there something on your mind?
Well, I wanted to bring in a YouTube question that I think kind of relates to this part of the conversation where you were talking about players who are cutting off the bottom, maybe progressing from, reducing their green fees to maybe playing for free to playing where they're actually being paid to play. But Mike Day asked the question, I think it's somewhat related, but different question, which is, what are the key factors and things you need to think about when transitioning from poker as a secondary income to being a poker pro?
Yeah.
And I think that's a different mindset that I'd love to hear your thoughts on.
Well, Mike is a great example. SIU Ranger Mike. He's a great example of a guy who's willing to put in the work. He'll grind it out, He'll play low stakes. He's gotten to the point where he's a consistent winner. So then the question is, if you're gonna, that's a little side income, a little extra money in your pocket each week to take, go out and do something fun with your friends, or just to take the burden off of some of your bills. But if you're going to shift that to the next gear, one thing is, just to move up in stakes, to play at a level where if you're making a certain ROI at the lower stakes, to make a living at it, you got to take the same ROI at a higher stakes. I mean, because it's the cost of living. You gotta play bigger, or play a lot more volume across lower stakes. Um, the considerations are many. Obviously, at the end of the day, it's all bankroll. If you're rolled to withstand the variance, and then it's fine. The other part of it, and I think this is the much, much harder part, this is something that Dr. Joe, has talked about a lot. It's like it's a strain on your lifestyle. It's a mental strain. It's fun to play poker. It's fun. It's not always fun to go to work. And when poker is your job and it's work, it takes on a different weight. The stresses of winning and losing. If I have a losing session now, it doesn't matter. I have an income. I have a salary. I have a 401k. I prefer to have a winning session. Year over year, I've had losing months. I've not had a losing year. I've done the math. If I sat there and said, okay, if I didn't work and I was using the same amount of time that I'm working to play poker, I could probably replace my income. But you have to think about your happiness. And I think that people really underestimate how that weighs on them. Some people are built for it. I am in a place right now where I have been, over the last year and a half, thinking about making that transition, putting all the pieces together, like what it would look like, getting all my ducks in a row. I've kind of written out what it would take for me to do it, like what bankroll I would need, what money sitting to the side in case it doesn't go well at first I would need. But the part that I haven't really dug into is, how do I feel day to day? Do I feel like playing? Are there days when I don't feel like playing, which won't be a choice if I'm doing this full time? And the other thing is, I feel like most people are driven or motivated by purpose. That we get up and we do what we do every day because it gives us a sense of purpose. Now, your purpose doesn't have to be from your vocation, from your job. Like you could have a job that has very little social value, that you don't get a lot of feeling of purpose from, but it pays your bills. But then you have to, I feel like most people that have to find purpose somewhere else. It could be raising a family. It could be volunteering in your community or your church, or, whatever, coaching Little League. And I might be wrong on this, I feel most people have that piece of them that needs to say, I'm doing something that has value. And I think that people in poker sometimes struggle with that. And you have to find it. So, if I were to do that, I think a big part of it for me would be the coaching side, because there I could derive the purpose of watching students get better, which I do find very valuable. Like that experience with my students, the part that there's a lot of things about teaching that are hard. And there's a lot of it there's pieces of your day that, there's faculty meetings and there's curriculum development. And there's stuff that I could pass on. But when the door shuts and it's you and your students and they're really engaged and they're eager and they're smart, these kids are eager and they're intelligent, they're smart, and they want to learn. You just got to give them something, right? And that gives me a lot of energy back and value. So I would ask Mike to consider where's his energy coming from? Like what brings energy into your life? And if you're going to transition to poker as a full time, you got to find and make sure that thing's in place. Otherwise, I think you're kind of doomed to fail. I might be wrong on that though.
This might be counterintuitive to new listeners, but I very rarely encourage people to go pro as a player. I mean, I love poker. And I've talked to hundreds of pro players and thousands of serious, thoughtful, recreational players. We all love poker. And, we got a good comment here in the YouTube chat from Bob Franklin, who says like, yeah, if you want to keep loving it, don't make it your job, you know? Like is that like I honestly I do think that the best way to experience poker is as a recreational player doing it on the side of something else, or you know, if you're like Rob Washam and you're retired or independently wealthy and you just, you know, you don't need to work anymore, that it's just it's like it's a fun thing that you're doing. You can be attached to the results, but it's different when it's like paying the mortgage depends on whether that heart comes on the river. Like that just, and like having to go play when you don't want to play. Like we call it play, it's fun. If it's work, you know, play and work are both 4-letter words, but work is really a 4-letter word when it comes to this kind of thing.
I think one of the biggest things as far as my dabbling with maybe I'll do this, it's not, it's almost as if I want to see if I can do it. It's almost like I want the challenge of saying, could I really do this? I think I can do it. I really do, but I won't know until I actually try. And so that's why I've been, and I also want to try before, you know, like I do think that poker in some ways is a young man's game, a young person's game, a young woman's game. I fatigue more now than I used to. I can't play as long as sessions as I used to and stay as sharp. So I do think that there's a window of opportunity that may be closing on me if I want to do this, I probably need to make this decision sooner rather than later. If I really want to really go for it, especially if you're talking about tournament poker. Now I play a fair bit of cash as well, which I think is also, if you're going to go for this, like as a profession, I really, really don't think you can make it as a tournament player unless you have some really special things going for you, and maybe some kind of sponsorships or other income. But cash poker, you can make a consistent income. The games are, they're there. You just got to find the right game. And I'm in Texas, so they're everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do want to point out, like, it is very different. The variance in tournament poker is so much greater than in cash. I think people can definitely make a living playing cash, even in their own areas, like locally. You don't have to move to Vegas. You need to be realistic about what you need to make in a year, and you need to be realistic about the amount of volume you're going to put in. But if you're a disciplined player, a studious player, you can make money consistently playing live cash, let's say. So I don't want to just like poo-poo that whole notion, but there's this sexy notion of just like being a tournament pro, like traveling around the circuit events and just like buy-in after buy-in, and just like, people get excited about that. And I want to just like, just pump the brakes a little there, gang. Like
we could cure them of that and just go with us to Vegas for 2 weeks in the summer. And you might change your mind.
Yeah, Joe Coolis, you've got something to add there, I think.
Yeah, no, I think it's like any job, right? You can't, if you focus solely on the amount of money that you're going to bring in, or, you know, you go to a job that you don't have to put your brain into, or you can't advance, or, you know, none of that's going to work, right? You're eventually going to want to put a barbecue fork through your head or something like that, because you're just going to be so frustrated with what it is. And poker will be the same thing. Right. Lemon, what is his name? You know me.
Phil Lyman.
Yeah. Lyman, yeah. Talked about it, saying going and watching, you know, rectangles over and over and over again will probably drive you into a Clockwork Orange sort of role. And so in my job, you know, I do cognitive testing and regularly have patients come up and say, how on God's green earth can you do this day in and day out? It's like, well, because this isn't what I enjoy, right? Doing the mechanical aspects of it is not what I enjoy. I enjoy the learning that comes along with it, and the fact that I get to study some pretty cool things along the way to get better at this. So when I go to work, when I read work stuff, it's enjoyable because I get something out of it. So I guess the advice I would say, and I think that, you know, Craig was kind of saying this, is like, if you're going to do that, if you're going to become a pro, don't look at the fact that you're going to travel around the world and have all sorts of money, because that's not really what's going to sustain you in it as a career, so that you can develop and be better, because everybody else wants to make the same money as you do. And the only way that you're going to get there is if you can sit down and make the time that you're studying be the time that you're enjoying, that you're living to work, essentially, right? Because your work is where you draw that Craig talked about, that persona, that who you are, that purpose from, because you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy sitting and studying all of these different things, pick something else because it's not worth it. You'll be dead in a year. No, not dead. I mean, that's facetiously dead. Right.
Yeah,
You'll be broke and you'll be out. You'll be like, why did I do this? So,
especially when you have the option to just like play for fun, like you don't need to take the plunge, right? Like this is what we're talking about. Why put yourself in that kind of a situation where when you can avoid it? Yeah. Sorry, Craig. I think you had something on that
No.
as well, but no. Okay.
I think that's right there.
All right. So I want to talk a little bit about. We're talking about day jobs and being a teacher and being a coach. One of the things that you're taking on here at RecPoker with Chris, we're going to be talking to Chris at some point soon as well. And you're both teachers professionally. You've got a great rapport. You've got the two of you really zig and zag well when it comes to how to approach learning and the different experiences that you've had. Chris is already, a one-time pro player who's really into this sort of community learning element that we've talked about. So you guys are working on a new study group coming up for RecPoker called Teachers Bet. This is Teachers Bet. I love that because we're all huge pun dorks over here. So you're fitting right in already, Greg. And this is going to be happening every couple of weeks, looking at hands that our members submit. So is this like a format that you've enjoyed before?
It really is. So Chris Long is a master teacher. Chris is a teacher. He also took some time off to play poker professionally. And did that. And I think that he found. I think what he missed the classroom. I'll let him speak for himself, but he's come back to the classroom. But he and I, within the 100K group, we're both classroom teachers, so we kind of gravitated towards those opportunities to engage in some of our teaching lessons. And we have a similar, I think we have a similar kind of philosophy about teaching, maybe slightly different styles, which I think is good, but we play off each other pretty well. And so what we were doing is I was running sessions where people would send me a hand history and we do a review, but really kind of even from beginning to end of a tournament, different stages. And what I like to do is put the student in the hot seat. Like I want you to talk out loud your thought process through this hand. And sometimes what's interesting is when we're looking at the hands, maybe it's like a week later, their thought process in the moment when we're doing the study is different than in game because what they tell me in the moment is different than what they did. And so that's where we find the loop, right? Like this is the spot when we're in the game. Why can't we make as good a decision as when we're reviewing? A lot of that's because of where the emotional levels are at the time. But then we start putting in like, what are the things we need to be thinking about? And then Chris was running some Saturday morning sessions where he was doing a lot of work on scenarios, situations. Like, let's talk about playing from the small blind. Let's talk about what happens when we check raise from the big blind and then get called. Oops, now what? What are we doing on the turn? And just so what he's really good at that I'm not is he's really good at getting into the solver, getting into the database, working on those things, finding those situations and isolating them, and then digging into the why. I tend to like to do the whole stages of the tournament and where we think at different stages. And so together, when we work on these things, I might be highlighting one piece of it and he might be highlighting another. And all of a sudden that makes me change something or him change something based on something we say. But the one thing I think we want to bring to it is, I know a lot of people didn't like school, or they say they didn't like school, or they don't like certain like homework. But I suspect that Chris's students really enjoy his class. I hope my students do. They seem to be relatively engaged and happy. So what we want to show is that coming to classes can be fun. And again, Joe talked about enjoying reading stuff that's related to his work because he gets to learn. I love learning. And I am convinced that everybody loves learning because when you learn something that you want to be learning, your brain rewards you. And Joe could probably explain this way better than me. Like that moment of aha, or like when something clicks, you get it. That is always a reward. That's always something people look forward to. So when people say, I don't like learning, I would just argue you're learning the wrong stuff. And so Chris and I, what we're going to do, the idea is that members would submit a hand history or a selection of hands. We'll just pick somebody each week, try to get a different person each week, have them come in with us, put them in the hot seat, talk through the hand, and then we ask them the right questions so they can learn to coach themselves. That's what it's going to look like. We did this a good bit with the 100K group. Our membership really, really liked it. At first, some of them were a little shy.
Sure.
And then after a while, they really engaged and they really started getting into it. And I think the biggest thing, what makes a good student is the willingness to be wrong. Being okay with this is what I was thinking, and not being fearful that we might say, well, that's wrong. Because we're not going to say that's wrong. We're going to say, well, what else could you have considered here? What factors should we be looking at in these situations? What were the stack sizes behind you? And does that change how you're thinking? If we ask the right questions, they're going to start to seed. And if you're never wrong, if I can't find something wrong, then we're not going to get something out of the session anyway. So I like when I get coached and someone shows me where I was wrong, because that's the only place I'm going to learn. If I'm getting coached and they're like, oh, you did that good, did that well, then I'm not learning anything and we're wasting our time. So sometimes, I remember I had this great tournament. I thought I played so well, and I was so happy to send Carlos Welch. We all know and love him. Has coached me on and off for years. I sent Carlos a hand history that I was so proud of. He tore me to shreds. I played so poorly and won that tournament. And at first I was a little bummed, because you want your coach to be proud. And I was so happy with this tournament. I thought I had played so well, because as soon as I ended, I downloaded it and I sent it to him. I didn't even look at it again. And when he picked it apart, he didn't care that I won the tournament. He saw so many spots where I was making mistakes. And the ones that made it and this is good too, there were a couple mistakes. He's like, we've talked about this. Why are we still making the same mistake? He holds me to a standard, right? And I won this tournament for a significant amount of money, and I actually felt bad about it afterwards. I didn't feel bad about winning the money, but I felt like I needed to hear that. I needed that lesson. And we all know that you can play poorly and win, and you can play really well and lose. That's the only reason this game still exists. But that was a very important moment. And I started to really embrace, please show me all the mistakes, find it, ask me questions back so we can learn. So I'm really looking forward to Chris. Chris is the best to work with. He like I said, he is a fantastic teacher. So I think it's going to be fun and just super easy to work with.
I would just jump in and say, I have been told many times I'm wrong. I continue to hate being wrong. And whenever I am wrong, I vow that I will never be wrong again in that particular area. So you don't have to embrace being wrong, and you can still continue to learn, just as an aside.
It's so funny. I actually did an interview with Carlos for 100K, and we recorded it, and it was all about playing from the small blind. And I started the interview with the story. Carlos sent me an article he wrote about playing out of small blind. And then a year later, he sent it to me again. He had forgotten. He said, apparently the lesson didn't take. I'm a better teacher than I am a student, apparently. So I had him on so we could talk about playing out of the small blind.
That's awesome. And I think it's important. I hate being wrong so much. I hate the experience of being wrong. It makes me feel like I'm embarrassed, because I like being right, and I like people thinking that I'm right. But I take constructive criticism really well, and I embrace the opportunity to learn when I am wrong on those very few occasions that it ever happens, very,
It's
very rarely.
possible. It's possible that this Matt guy might find some mistakes in your
Oh!
game. I don't know.
Yeah,
I heard he's. I heard he's all right.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh
heard he's all
yeah.
right.
That one's gonna be a little tough on the ego. So just a little segue here. What Craig's talking about, if you weren't listening last week, is Matt Affleck is kind of taking me under his wing for the next couple months, and I'm going to be doing some live, available for our members to view in real time coaching sessions with Matt Affleck. And
Wait, is
he's
Matt Affleck?
yeah.
Not Ben Affleck?
No.
Oh, that's a whole different
that's his,
thing. That's a
that's
whole
his
different
cousin.
thing.
Yeah, he has a totally
Oh.
different skill set.
Oh,
But
that's different.
but Matt was kind enough last week when he came on the show to say that I just want, our members to know that I'm filtering for hands that Jim has made errors. We're only going to see hands where Jim has made a bunch of errors here. So I am definitely looking forward to that. And like we say all the time on the forums episode, on the forums edition of the show, you got to share the hands where you made mistakes, the hands where you didn't know the answers, the hands where you felt dumb. Because that is how we learn, and it doesn't have to be. You can be. I think like Joe and I, we're just from our level of like competing. We just don't like being wrong, but because it's like we're losing. It's like
Well,
being.
you have to Craig's point, you have to be willing to be wrong, right? And some of the best time that I learn the most is when I'm trying to prove I'm not. And then at the very end, I'm like, yeah, all right, I'm wrong. So I think that if you are unwilling to be wrong, then you can't ever learn, because you'll defend yourself from actually learning the material. But disliking it can sometimes serve as a motivation to kind of figure out, well, why. And so that you never have to have that experience. Well, not never, but in that area, you don't have that experience again.
I think the one other thing that's really important, and this is, I think, somewhat maybe not unique to poker, but certainly in poker, it's not necessarily right or wrong sometimes either. It's like, this is good, this might be better. And when I'm coaching, I'm always like, I think this might be better, but I could be wrong. So let's look at it, and and there's more than one way to win a poker hand, and two can be right. And a solver could tell you that one is like worth, 0.2 big blinds per 100 more than another. And it's like, those are the same. So in the moment, what was right may not be right when you're isolating it after the fact without the context. A lot of times I'm looking at a hand and I didn't see the last 5 hands the guy you're playing this played. Like, you might have played it because the guy's a maniac. But if you take that hand in isolation, that is not the way to play that hand. But like, in that moment, we didn't see that that guy just played the last 15 hands in a row. And so when you have that kind of context, it can all change. So I think that's the other thing. I never tell someone that I have a better way of playing that hand. I say, it's always kind of with like, there might have been I might have done it differently, and this is why. But I don't think anyone ever plays I mean, every once in a while you see a hand like, that's just bad. But if you're being really honest with me, and so and I don't want a student who doesn't want me to be honest with them. I'll be kind about it. And the more I work with somebody, I might get a little bit more heavy-handed, a little more heavy. If I feel like they can take that and they want that, I can be like, okay, like Carlos does to me sometimes, like, oh, we've talked about this spot. You're doing the same thing we talked about a couple months ago. What, now you're just not listening, so there's a standard. And if I can explain why, then that's fine. So I think that's the type of thing that makes you a good student.
I'll give our YouTube chatters one more chance. If you, there's a really delightful sandwich-related debate going on in the YouTube chat right now. But if you have any more questions for Craig, enter them in now, and we're going to wrap up the interview shortly, and then we'll give away a prize to support a local food bank just a little later on in the show. So, Craig, I heard this crazy rumor that I know you've studied a lot, you've played a lot, you've played online, you've played live. You had a not typical first tournament experience. So tell us a little bit about the first live poker tournament that you ever played in, Craig.
So I started out playing sit and goes like most people or many people, and I stayed in that domain for a really long time. I built my bankroll. I moved up in stakes, and I was playing really high sit and goes, winning consistently. And then I started dabbling in MTTs online, and I started having some success there. And I decided to play a series of satellites to win a main event seat. I wasn't sure I could do it, but they were sit and go. So I win a sit and go. You move up to next one. You move up, move up. And so I worked the thing up all the way to the one where if you won it, you're going to go to the main event. And I sat down and I played the ticket, and I was the first one busted. And I was like, oh, well, let me try it again. So I started in. I didn't start at the very bottom level. I started pretty low though, and I quickly ran it back up, and I got my seat to the one to win the main event. And I took 2 days. I'm like, I'm going to wait until I'm ready. The last time I wasn't ready. The kids were in bed. My wife was in bed. I sat down. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And it started out like 9 or 10 handed. And first place, $12,000 package, the main event. Playing. We get down to like 5 people, 6 people. And all of a sudden it was 3 people. And all of a sudden it was heads up. And we're playing heads up. And I had aces. Heads up, aces. And you're going to raise. The guy's going to fold. I raise. And the guy re-raises me. And we're shallow enough that I'm like, I think I should just flat this. I flat this. Flop. Ace, king. I don't know what else. I have a set of aces. And I'm like, well, I got the board locked up. I can't get any value out of this. I check. They put out a tiny bet. I call. Anyway, we get all in. It was set over set. Aces over kings. So it was going to happen. The computer just goes, congratulations. I was expecting confetti and sirens going off. It's like my wife walks through the room. I'm like, I think I just won a main event seat. She's like, oh, that's nice. I was like, no, that's not nice. That's like a big deal. She's like, oh yeah, great. I'm like, no, this is a big deal. This is the main event of the World Series. She's like, okay. She has no context. I'm like, no, the main event of the World Series. She's like, okay. I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is a really big deal. So then I started thinking about it. What am I going to do with this? You had to take the money offline and go register yourself. They didn't do it for you.
So you have to have the $10,000, which means you have to then choose to take that $10,000 and spend it on a poker tournament. Well, that's tough. That's different.
And it was $12,000 because they gave you some spending money.
Oh, right.
So I'm like, this is a significant score. I don't have to go play it. I've never played a live poker tournament before. I should pocket this money. I thought about it. I was like, oh, it'd be so cool to play. My wife's like, well, just go play. You didn't have the money before. If you don't have it after, I was like, no, you don't understand. That's not how this works. Like, this is a big deal. So then I thought I'll just win a second ticket. The first one was easy. And I spent like $1,500 trying to win another ticket. And it didn't happen. I was like, you know what? Okay, I got to stop that. Anyway, I finally decided, you know what? We're just going to go for it. I sold 20% off to my friends. It's like, I'm selling this thing. My friends have no idea what I'm talking about. They're like, sure, we'll buy it. So I sold to and I didn't sell anybody more than 2% because I didn't want to lose anybody's money because I felt bad. And we went. I had never been to the World Series. I had never played a live poker tournament. I did in the weeks leading up to it. I thought I need to train. Like I'm not used to playing super deep stack because I played sit and goes for the most part and fast moving MTTs online. So I would go sit. I drove to the casino and I would sit in cash games and play really deep. And I also forced myself to, if I didn't like my table, usually I would just move in a cash game. I didn't let myself move. And if my table was too easy, I would move to a harder table. And I just, it's not the same because it's not a tournament, but I just wanted to play deep. So I did that. We flew out there and I sat down. I bought in and I sat down. I immediately said to myself, you just lit $10,000 on fire. You have no business being here. You're a fraud. You're a fake. You don't know what you're doing. And I started playing and I just played tight, called a raise with tens, flopped a set on an ace high board. And I thought, oh man, this is real now. And it was crazy because like in the first couple levels, you're like 300 big blinds deep. I heard this table all in. I'm like, how are people getting 300 big blinds in for $10,000 in level 2. And all of a sudden I flopped a set of 10s on ace high board, and I'm thinking, how do I get 300 big blinds in? I get to the end of the day and I have more chips than I started with. And the worst fear is over. I didn't bust on day 1. Came back on day 2, ended the day with more chips than I had. Got to day 3, ended with more chips than I had. And that's all I kept doing. And I made it to day 6. The only like and you know this, Jim, because you just recently lived it, the bubble bursting.
Right.
That moment when the bubble bursts and you realize like you just made a significant amount of money. You can call yourself a winner. The hair on your arm raises up. You're just thinking, is this really going to happen? Can I keep folding to get here? Anyway, we made day 6. I make day 6. And I got Phil Galfond on my immediate left. I've got like every person at the table is a name I've seen before, and I'm one of the few people left that has no business being in this tournament. and I busted like 157th or 52nd on day 6, and at that point, you look around there and there's 18 tables left.
Yeah,
you can count it. Like you can look at it after days and days of just seas of people. You can see the end, and I remember being devastated. Like just devastated. I lost, and I'm in the line to cash out. And my dad calls me, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm bummed out. I lost. He's like, what did you expect? He's like, you did great. Like, what do you expect? I'm like, I don't know, but like once you got that deep, you just kind of hoped it could keep going. And the funny thing is, I look back on it now, and the player that I was then versus the player I'm now, I am so much better now. Me today would beat the pants off that of me in 2010, but I probably would bust earlier now. My version of me now would have busted that tournament earlier because I would have taken some thinner lines. I would have taken some bigger chances, and I probably would have busted it earlier. Or I would have been in a position on day 6 that I would have had a chance to make day 7, because I came into day 6 pretty short stacked and playing too tight against people who were just raising me too much, and I didn't know how to fight back. So I came home from that thinking maybe I'm good at this game. I immediately entered a big tournament at WinStar, and made a significant amount of money. Made it to the final 2 tables of that one, and a week later made the final table at a tournament at Choctaw, and I was like, easy game. The next year I went out to Vegas and I lost every hand I played. Right back down to earth. And then I decided I should try to get good at this game. But they talk about survivorship bias and people who make it in this game. And I think had that first experience gone like the second summer in Vegas, I don't know if I'd be where I am today in this game. I don't know if I would have been able to handle if I'd gone out there the first year like I did the second year, where I had a schedule and I played all these tournaments and I sold a package and I did the whole thing the second year. After Black Friday, and most of my money was stuck on Full Tilt.
Yeah.
And Full Tilt had the sponsorship deal with me because I won their seat through them, and they were going to give me this money and that money, and I had to wear all the stuff. And I went out the second summer and got devastated and came back broken in a lot of ways. Like I was pretty convinced that I could not play this game. And I came back in about 9 months, didn't play a single hand of poker because online was gone. Right. Because it was right after Black Friday. And there weren't the above ground rooms we have today in Texas. They were underground rooms or the casinos. And I just couldn't bring myself to drive up there. And the underground games were dicey. And I just sat on the bench for 9 months and finally decided, I don't know what got in. I was like, I'm going to go play. I went to the underground game a couple of times, did well, went up to the casino, final table of the tournament. I was like, all right, I'm back. I'm back. But that's when I started getting more serious about actually studying. Before it was just like reading books for myself. Then I started getting involved with Tournament Poker Edge, started studying there. And then I moved from there to, I've done some work with Learn Poker. I've studied with Alex Fitzgerald. I've studied Ryan LaPlante. I studied with Carlos for years via those guys through him. Andrew Brokus, getting that all distilled through Carlos has been great for me. Carlos and I became friends. We met in 2013 before he became the Carlos he is today. He had been on the podcast with him one time, and I just was drawn to him, and we reached out and we became friends. And we've been friends since. And then I met Rob through Learn Pro Poker, and Rob struck me as being a very good poker teacher, and I was drawn to him. His mission of bringing people into the game and building people up and telling all the positive stories in poker, and really trying to like shine the spotlight on people who deserved it. And here we are today. Now here with you fine people.
That's right. I mean, it's a story of a life. Everyone that's been lucky enough to have found poker, earlier in their lives, it's a game that is very rewarding of study. It's something that you can work at for the rest of your life and just get better and better and keep challenging your own assumptions, and adapting and evolving as the game does. But yeah, I mean, you gotta love it. You gotta love it, and I can tell that you do. So thank you for being one of the great leaders here at Rec Poker on our RECing Crew, contributing to our training material for all our members here. And I think we all have this kind of common love of teaching and sharing our love of poker, contributing to the poker world. So I'm glad that you're on the team, man. This is awesome.
I'm glad to be here. It's a good fit for me.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, if you want to find out more about Craig, you can go to rec.poker/savage, and you can see some bio information about him. We're just in the middle of putting up some of his coaching offerings, but you can work with Craig one-on-one. You can work with Craig over video review. And if you go to rec.poker/coaching, you'll see all sorts of different RECing Crew members who all have different ways of working with our students and clients and members. And I just encourage everyone to go and give that a try and take your game to the next level and just get someone to shine a light on the path ahead, just to make your steps a little more sure. So I'd encourage folks to do that. All right. We are going a little long because this has been such a wonderful interview. But Chris Jones, why don't you lead us into Stake, Study, Stack? Then we'll close the action with our speed round and give away a prize to support a local food bank. Stick around, folks. Chris, take it away.
All right. Well, so Craig, you know the deal. I'm going to give you three names: one that you'd like to stake in a tournament, or a cash game, one that you'd like to study with, and then one that you'd like to just stack at the table. And I myself would never put my name up for grabs for a coach to name this to me, but some of your own students have reached out and suggested that we put their names up here. So your names are Mike Day, Cledius, and Hubie.
Oh my goodness.
Nice.
Okay. Oh wow, this is great. Okay. I actually think this is not that hard. Okay. So I'll start with stake. I'm gonna stake. Ooh. Hubie goes big. Cletus stays a little bit kind of in the middle, conservative. But Mike is consistent. That dude grinds. So we're going to stake Mike. We're going to study with Cletus, and we're going to stack Hubie. Hubie's going to punt. He's going to punt to me for sure.
I love it. And I've been able to meet all three of those folks either in our Zoom sessions here at Rec Poker or at 100K or in person.
All great guys.
Such a great crew, man. I swear, that's one of the things I love most about being involved with this group. It's just like the friends that I've made, honestly. Yeah. Not even some of these RECing Crew regulars. We've been hanging out doing this for 6 or 7 years now. I haven't even met everybody in person on this channel, but like some of these are amongst my best friends.
I'm gonna stake Mike Day in a pool tournament too. That guy's a hustler. He plays with one hand. He plays one-handed. Yeah, he does, for real. And he's a hustler.
Yeah, Mike knows how to bring it. I've enjoyed getting to know him a little bit too. All right, well, this has been a real treat. I think we're going to close the action with our speed round, and then we'll roll on out of here. Yeah, get ready, buddy. Prepare. So just
gotta hydrate.
Yeah, that's right. So if you're new to the show, this is just a speed round. Close the action. We're going to zip through a bunch of questions really quickly and see what Craig has to say about a variety of subjects, mostly to do with poker. All right, let's start with introducing some drama,
Okay.
a little mood element.
Right.
There we go. Now it's time. Now we're real. All right. Closing the action with Craig Savage. The first question: what is your favorite poker hand?
Aces.
Is poker a gamble or a skill game?
Ooh. The skills to make them gamble with you.
Nice. What's your biggest poker pet peeve?
Slow play, especially when the decisions are easy.
Is Ace King a drawing hand?
No, it's a premium.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No, because the bread's connected.
Right.
Right? It's
Okay,
connected on the
I
bottom, so it's not two slices.
So,
So a hot
so like
dog's not a sandwich.
so a submarine sandwich is also not a sandwich by your logic.
Oh. Nah, sub sandwich is a sandwich.
All right, so this is why we
Technicality.
ask the tough questions, Craig, because like it's hard. It's hard. We're gonna make you think a little bit.
Ice cream
Okay.
sandwich? Wait, Jim, is the ice cream
Oh.
sandwich a sandwich?
I'd say an ice cream sandwich is a sandwich.
I
But don't
agree.
turn the tables on me. This is your interview, buddy.
I'm a teacher. That's what I do. I ask questions.
What's one thing that you're afraid of, Craig Savage?
One thing I'm afraid of, letting people down.
Should vacations be lazy or busy?
Busy. I gotta get moving. I could be lazy at home.
Oh.
I gotta get out and see stuff.
What's your favorite, speaking of which, what's your favorite brick and mortar poker venue?
Oh, for nostalgia, it's gotta be the old Rio during the World Series.
Nice.
Nostalgia.
I love
Just
that.
nostalgia.
I was using my Rio coffee mug just this morning, actually. That's a fun one.
That coffee probably tastes terrible.
Who's one player that you respect and why?
Oh. Like my first thought is like Seidel or Galfon because they're very thoughtful, but I'm gonna go. This is gonna be sweet. I'm gonna go with Rob Gardner. The guy is just he's a true professional. He's super resilient, and he's helped me a lot. So I think it's Rob Gardner.
I love it. Yellow light coming up. Speed up or slow down?
I probably should have said Carlos Welch. It depends on who's in the car. If I have like, precious cargo like my children, I'm going to slow down. If it's just me, and we're going for it.
All right. Back when you were a child, what was your favorite holiday meal?
Oh. I have a weird relationship with food, having been a wrestler for so long. And the holidays are always during wrestling season. But I'm going to say that Thanksgiving, my mom would make on the breakfast a monkey bread. And I'm going to say that's weird, but I'm going to say monkey bread.
Okay. Can you just define a monkey? What the hell is a monkey bread?
Cinnamon biscuit, caramel gooey. It's fantastic.
I'm interested.
It's sticky and good.
Yes,
yeah. Okay. Back to poker. In a tournament mindset, are you pro chop or no chop?
Do I have the chip lead? If I'm very strategic about it. If the blinds are so high that the game is now just all gamble, then it's just a chop. But like if there's still play and I think I'm better, I'm pretty good heads up. So I want to get heads up.
Doesn't have to be your favorite musical artist, but name one excellent musical artist.
Okay, take my word for this. You will not regret it. Sam Johnston.
Okay.
He's a young kid. He's out of Nashville, former student of mine, and he's making some bangers.
All right.
Sam Johnston. Check him out.
What about an open face sandwich? Is an open face sandwich a sandwich?
It's the most honest sandwich there is. There's no hidden agenda. There's no tricks. It's an open book. I'm all about open face sandwich. Yes.
Okay, but again, it's just
an honest. It's an honest sandwich, but it's two pieces of bread just facing. They're just like It's with no hidden agenda. Right? It's honest.
All right, coming. We're drawing to a close here. Who is your poker nemesis?
Jay Carafiello? Venom?
Oh yeah, nice. Venom. Let's get Venom back.
No, Venom is my roommate and he is my mental coach. He is great for me. But there's a local guy named Abraham Araya. He's really good. And I can't beat him in a hand. I can't beat him.
All right. Good answer. Now, this one I want you to take a little time and think about, because this is the last question I'm going to ask you today. We talk a lot about sort of making poker fun here and enjoying like the pleasure of poker and the fun of poker. What's one thing that the poker world can do, or that we can all do, to make our own experiences with poker and other people's experiences with poker more fun?
More fun. Fun. I try to have fun when I'm playing. It's easier in cash games than tournaments because I'm a little more serious in tournaments. But I think, okay, to make the game fun, you just play within your bankroll. You play levels that can't hurt you, and then the game can be fun. To make your life a little bit more pleasant, I think people, this is a cliche saying, but people don't remember what you do. They remember how you made them feel.
Mm.
And I think having moments of authentic discussion, talking to someone in a way that they know you care what they answer, so you get to know them, I think it really makes people feel known, seen, connected, and belonging. And I think that's something I try sometimes to be much more intentional about, and kind of slowing things down. I don't know if you can see, I have, it's backwards. On my wrist, my daughter and I have this common tattoo, and it just says pause. And I think that we're just moving too fast sometimes. Our decisions are too fast. Our judgments are too fast. Life is too fast. We're too much in a hurry to get somewhere or to be at the next thing, instead of just like taking a moment and saying, right here, right now where I am, this is pretty good. And when you have those moments, you got to savor them.
I love it. Good for you, man. Well, this has been a great interview. I'm just doing some quick math here. Carry the 7, 1,017 points. That's fantastic.
Did I beat Venom?
I think you actually beat Venom. Yeah, you beat. So he is your poker nemesis. There you go.
Yeah. Rob, did I beat Rob? Did I beat Rob Gardner?
I think you might have come in over. We don't get a lot of four-digit scores. So I don't know if it was the having the clock back or just your enthusiasm in the answers. I don't know what it was, but it swayed the judges and our proprietal and non-transparent judging system, scoring system.
I appreciate
that. Just put you up over the top there. So congratulations. All right, folks. Please, if you want to be involved in a free raffle, just start typing the words "food bank" into the YouTube chat. I mentioned earlier, if you want to find out more about Craig, you can go to rec.poker/savage. Craig, do you have a favorite social media platform? Is there an area that you like to engage with folks? What's the best way for folks to reach out?
Man, I wish I could say I'd stay off social media for the next 30 days, but probably the easiest is Twitter. I can't call it X. I'm Savage X on Twitter. That's probably the easiest, to send me a DM on Twitter. But I do have a Facebook poker page, but Twitter's probably the easiest.
All right.
I do InstaSnap too, or Instagram, whatever the kids call that thing. But I'm not real great on that one.
Yeah, like Face Space. I'm on there too. Yeah,
Snap Space. Yeah,
Talk. Yeah, that one. We're so hip. I can. All right.
The kids have to teach me all these new terms every year.
Yeah, well, that's how you end up with expressions like a banger, which, from what I understand, is a YouTube chat here. I'm not the only person that uses that expression now, so I'm glad to hear. Nice. I have another folksy, old-timey expression user on the panel, which we're overdue.
Craig, this does not sell well for you if it uses Jim's terms. It's
a banger? No. Oh, that's not.
Well, you'll be talking about cleaning people's gutters. Soon. Nobody will know what you're talking about.
Oh, bless your cotton socks, Joe.
Yeah. Well, Jim has a lot of riz, so you never know.
Hey, oh, he is plugged in to the scene. All right. Well, Craig, you're welcome to stick around. Of course, we're just going to go over some home game results and give away a fantastic prize. I'll just remind our YouTube audience, and if you're listening at home, the reason that we give away a prize, well, we just love giving stuff away and we want to encourage people to get involved and to come to the show. But the reason that we give it away in the way that we do by having people type the words food bank into the YouTube chat is just because it's kind of a difficult time in the world right now for a lot of people. It's hard to make ends meet. It's hard to feed your family, feed yourself. And I think that if people look around, they might be surprised at how many people need a little help right now, particularly with everything that's going on with the weather in the States. It's a good time to pull out your smartphone and just Google food banks near me. And if you do that, I'm sure you'll find an organization that could benefit from a few dollars out of your pocket, a few hours as a volunteer out of your week, or some non-perishable food items from your pantry. And I would really just encourage you to do that and to make a little donation, help support a local food bank. Folks need the help a lot. And you might be surprised at who maybe a neighbor or a friend or someone who isn't comfortable talking about the distress that they're in, but nevertheless needs a little help. So be like Eric Anderson and some of these other fantastic folks in our YouTube chat and just type the words food bank in there. We're going to do a raffle at the end of the show and give away a fantastic prize for one of our entrants there. So in the meantime, while we're giving people time to type in the words food bank, John Somsky, our beloved and much put upon director of our home game club, is going to share some recent winners with us.
Yes, on October 2nd, we had our No Limit Hold'em Championship Series. This is where we keep the points for the entire year. And Evil Roy CA, David Westerveld, won that event for the second time this year.
Be stopped. He cannot be stopped.
This is his 72nd lifetime win for Rec Poker.
Wow.
Also, it should be noticed this also put him in the top of the POY race, so he is now also leading the championship series. He just took over from Kelly Stork, who had been leading for the previous couple of weeks.
But I want folks to know that even though it's late in the year, you can still win your way into the Tournament of Champions, the championship, the No Limit Hold'em annual championship in December, because all you need to do is win one of these in any of the months, and you've got a seat, and then the remaining seats are made up from the highest point winners of the leaderboard throughout the year. So you still have a chance to play the first Wednesday in November, the first Wednesday in December. Win your way in. There's some fantastic prizes there as well, aside from just the bragging rights, which we lean on pretty extensively over here with this crowd. Sorry, John, you were saying.
Yes, then and Les Paul 99, Michael Pinciero got his first nightly win for the year. Eric Anderson, Anderson 85, got his seventh nightly victory for the year. Panthers 7500, who is related to someone on this very panel, and who is probably the best player in the family, won his second nightly victory.
And they won just last week or something, didn't they, as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
I had to make a decision whether I was going to tell him how to get into the monthly Tournament of Champions, because it'll be a real problem if he wins a silver pin before I do.
I thought you were going to say you had to make a decision about how wide to make the doorways so that he could get his head through.
You know my son. Then
about 30 seconds after I created the Tournament of Champions, he had responded, "I've registered. He will be there."
Awesome. That's fantastic. Congratulations. Congratulations. Yeah, for sure.
Then A Really Mad Guy got his sixth nightly victory for the year. Mead Weaver got his or her third nightly victory for the year. Rick the Good Dog got his second international victory for the year.
Congrats, Rick.
Philly 19341, Rich Deakins got his fourth international victory for the year. And Cake Poker wannabe Ron Payton got his first LPP event for the year. So he can contact info@rec.poker for his free month at Learn Pro Poker.
I think Ron might be like a Sunday specialist. He's won that LPP tournament a few times, I think. K-Poker wannabe. Another one of these lovely Canuckian members, just saying. Congratulations, Ron. Yeah, send that email to info@rec.poker to claim your prize. You've won a free month at Learn Pro Poker. And it's just one of the perks of playing in our free play money home game. Another perks is you get to win these beautiful pins. Oh, the lighting's not very good right here, but let's just can we do a little? Yeah, can we show them off? There, look at the silver, gold. Look at those beautiful things. You can't buy those. All you can do is win them in our tournaments. They're free to play. The prizes are real. I actually just sent out a mailer. I see Eric Anderson won this week. I sent him 5 bronze pins and a silver, and he already had a bronze or 2 and a silver. So Eric is really climbing the pin ranks. Congratulations, Eric. And if anyone else wants to check the status of their pins or order your pins, I do ask that you just chip in a few bucks for postage, shipping, and handling. But they're all available in our shop. If you have earned pins, you can place an order, and whether it's 1 pin or many pins, I'll drop them in the mail and get them to you. And we also, if we ever have a road trip or a live event to an area near you, I always travel with a bunch of pins in the bag so we can just hand them off in person too. All that'll cost you is a cold beer in my hand, which is, always appreciated. Yeah, Joe.
Well, I'm just looking at the postage math versus beer math. I'm missing it somehow.
Beer and math are never going to go together well. I would just abandon that. I would abandon that mission immediately.
In most places, that beer is going to be more expensive than the postage.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, it's international, baby. I mean, you never know. You never know.
You do get the Jim discount from getting some time to spend with him, but I don't know, 29 cents versus $8.
You're right. I should be buying them the beer. So that does happen as well from time to time.
Well, actually, all you need to do is just go around the tables, find half-drunk ones, pour them together, and then hand them to Jim, and he'll be none the wiser, and you'll still get your pins.
Yeah, we call that the home remedy. That's just a little life hack. Life hack for all those folks out there listening. All right, let's wrap this puppy up with a giveaway. This has been a really fun week, a really fun episode. Do we have the Daiso cam, Chris? Are we?
I'm going to skip the Daiso cam today. Okay. We don't have Phil on board, so we can't be accused of
bamboozling. I think I saw Eric Anderson put the first food bank in.
Oh, really?
He was early. He was early coming in.
Okay, because we also have Mike Day who went a little early too. So.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Well, who went?
Okay,
early?
So if you saw Eric above, I didn't see Eric, but if Eric is in there, we got Eric first, Mike Day second, Joseph Walton third, Cledius fourth, K Poker Wannabe fifth, Neil sixth, Robert Franklin seventh.
Okay,
is that what you got?
That works for me.
All right, I'm rolling the 8-sider. If we roll an 8, we'll be donating to the food bank.
Sounds great. Let's see.
It's a 5. Of course it is.
All right. So 1, 2. Oh, wait, is that K Poker Wannabe again?
Yep.
Wow. He can't lose. This guy, Ron. How do you do it, man? What do you have for breakfast? I want to be like Ron. All he does is show up and win stuff. That's amazing. All right. Well, congratulations, Ron. Now you're gonna have to send 2 emails to info@rec.poker because you've got a lot of cool stuff coming to you. Congratulations. And thanks to all of our YouTube chatters.
Send just one if you'd like. I mean, I think we can handle it.
You think we can figure that out?
I think we might be able to figure that out.
Our crack team is gonna get that down.
Save on the data transfer,
All right, you guys don't pay postage for your emails?
No. We just in Canada. We just moved the whole thing. The whole internet's online now. It's amazing. Whoa. It's a huge improvement.
Data charges may apply.
Yes. Standard data rates may apply. Consult your local telecommunications provider. All right, folks, let's wrap this puppy up. If you're a premium member and you're watching live, you can head on over to the forums edition. If you go to the RecPoker homepage, there's a calendar on the main page. You can see what's coming up next. We're going to record a strategy forums edition, and I'd love to get some premium members in there to ask questions and answer them. Thank you so much to Craig Savage. What a cool guest that was. Looking forward to working with him on the crew. To all our YouTube chatters, did a great job. We got to have a lot of fun with them today. Rob Washam, Joe Coolis, Chris Jones, John Somsky, y'all rock. And you listening at home. We really couldn't do it without you. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on the RecPoker Podcast. Have a good night, everybody.